profile picture popping up, so I am having to like constantly connect my camera. But it's okay. We will continue on with the party on Facebook, and we'll continue on with the tips on Facebook if that's okay with you. If we continue the conversation here on this platform, okay.
I love it.
Try to find a way to get a replay up on IGTV for those who.
I was saying, I'm pretty sure you can download and
Sorry okay, well then I'll tell you what, Nicole, let me stop talking, and why don't you introduce yourself, introduce your business, and whatever else about you that you want to share with people. Let everybody know.
Sure. So like she said, my name is Nicole Weaver. I am an independent financial coach. I know there's a lot of big words, but basically what that just means is that I walk people through step by step in whatever their money journey looks like. So that's all the way from people who are struggling living paycheck to paycheck and can't pay their bills, all the way through to people who are completely debt-free, who have money they want to invest in, are trying to build wealth, because it's a spectrum, right? That's why we call it a journey. That's why I love the phrase your money journey, because it's never over. There's always another step to take, and there's always a path to follow. So I love working with people one-on-one for that. And so when I was approached about talking about pregnancy and birth and just what it looks like to be financially ready for that, I got really excited, because not only am I a financial coach, but I'm a new mom. And so I have been through this very recently of trying to figure out how to make sure that we were financially ready to have a baby. Also, that once she was here, and she'll actually be 1 in like 2 weeks. Oh my gosh.
Wow, time flies.
It does. That we could like kind of manage as things went on. So I'm excited to provide these tips for you guys, and just talk about kind of what to think about, especially if you're on the side of, trying to conceive or wanting to do a surrogate or IVF or adoption. If you're looking at having a child through whatever route, things that you can think about to kind of put you in a good place financially. So what I want to start with, I have basically 5 points, and I'm going to keep talking because I think she's moving in and out. Bless her signal.
It is moving in and out, but it's okay. Everybody has your beautiful face, so everybody can focus on you as the expert guest. Yeah, and just guide us. Tell us whatever.
Real life, guys. So the first thing I want you to do, because this is something that actually bit us in the butt, is I want you to review your benefits. So whether that's through your job, through your spouse's job, review what benefits you have available to you. These are things like maternity leave or FMLA. So in the United States, FMLA, which is the Family and Medical Leave Act, requires that your company gives you up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave for something like having a baby. Among other things. It is unpaid. They're only required, basically what they're required to do is allow you to have 12 weeks off and have a job to come back to. That's really all they're required to do. But companies are allowed to go above and beyond that. So for example, the company that I was working for when I was on maternity leave paid for 2 out of those 12 weeks. And so I actually got 2 weeks paid and then was allowed another 10 weeks off. So check with your company for what that looks like. In a lot of cases, you also have to be an employee of the company for 1 year before those benefits kick in. So just make sure that you're aware of what those benefits are. Other benefits that are great for maternity leave are short-term disability. Now, you might be offered this through work, and you might be able to add on a supplemental short-term disability policy through something like AFLAC. However, once you're already pregnant, it's considered an existing condition, and it doesn't count. So this bit us in the butt, because we went, oh, hey, we can do this, but we were already pregnant, and so we couldn't. So before you even start kind of moving that route, look into it. Now, again, my sister-in-law, my brother and sister-in-law adopted, and what they discovered was you don't get maternity leave if you adopt a baby. You didn't have a baby, right? And so look into, does your company have specific adoption leave or adoption benefits? And make sure that you're aware of what that's going to look like for you, because it will look different depending on what kind of benefits you have. So that's the first tip, is review and explore your benefits, and then make adjustments if necessary, because usually like once a year you can make adjustments and you can add on policies. So I just did a pay up on my short-term disability so that I can get paid more during that time off. So just
nice. I didn't even know that was an option. So you can do a pay up on short-term disability sometimes.
Yeah. So you can do a pay up on most companies. You can do a pay up on short-term disability, which means rather than X%, they give you a higher percentage of your pay during that time. And then you can also do a pay down usually on long-term disability, which is where it kicks in sooner because otherwise usually it's 12 weeks before long-term kicks in. So those are options for you. So make sure that you check with your HR department in your company and figure out what those benefits are to you and see if you need to make any adjustments to those during open enrollment before you start the path of actually having a baby.
Wow.
Make sense?
Love it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's an incredible tip.
Yeah, it kicked us in the butt because we were like, oh, let's get Aflac. And we couldn't because we were already pregnant. I was like, oh.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. I considered a pre-existing condition. Never knew that either. Okay.
Yeah, I think their rule is you have to have had the policy for 10 months before you have the baby, which means you have to have policy for a month before you get pregnant. So
okay.
That's why I say just look into what you've got available to you.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to those alternate methods, so things like IVF, surrogate adoption, make sure that you're looking in detail into the costs and the timeline of those costs. So a lot of people, when they're looking into IVF or adoption or things like that, they just think, I'll just take out a loan, which is possible, but there's a lot of things to consider there. I personally never advocate debt. I never do. I always say pay cash for anything you can pay cash for. And so what you can do instead is say, okay, this is going to cost us X dollars, and our target timeline is 1 year from now, 2 years from now. Divide that by however many months and start saving for it. So look at those costs. But the reason I say timeline is because, especially with something like an adoption, there's an initial fee when you sign on with the adoption agency. Then there's another fee when you actually get placed with a child. And then there's another fee 6 months later when you go through the legal process to make everything official. And so your timeline of cost is kind of spread out. And so it's not just like, here's $10,000 and here's my adoption. It's a lot more than that in terms of timeline. So it's important to know, because if you take out, for example, a $10,000 loan right at the beginning, but you don't actually need to spend any of that, you're paying interest on it that entire time, even though you didn't have to spend it yet, right? So again, knowing that also can help you say, okay, good, I only need X dollars for right at the beginning, and then I have time to save for the rest of it. So be fully aware of what your timelines look like. In terms of IVF, my understanding is that there's different packages you can get, where like some is like unlimited attempts, and some is you pay per attempt, and some is you pay at the stages. So just be fully aware of what your costs are and what your timeline is, so that you can kind of plan ahead for that. Don't ever let yourself be surprised by an expense when you're doing something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes awesome sense. Are there questions that people can ask specifically? Because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and it's a little bit difficult to know what questions to ask, right? And so it's like, okay, well, I've never been through this process before. Like, who can I turn to? Who can be like an advocate and kind of walk me through this process and kind of get in my ear about things to, watch out for? Do you have any?
So I love the questions of if people want to go in and just go, okay, how much is this going to cost? But if you come in and say, what other expenses could I expect that might pop up later? You could also say, how much can I expect to be covered by insurance? And that's another one of my tips I'll talk about, is looking into what your insurance does and doesn't cover. But you can ask questions about what's actually covered, what's not covered, because a lot of times, especially adoption is a good example, a lot of it is legal fees. It's not even like healthcare related, right? So health insurance has nothing to do with it. It's legal fees. So what kind of expenses can I expect that might pop up later? And then ask for a specific timeline. What happens if is always a great question, a lead question to start with. What happens if this first attempt fails? What happens if we aren't able to get any viable eggs from this? What happens if my surrogate loses the pregnancy? That's a good question to ask. People don't think about that. How much am I paying a surrogate? And then what if that pregnancy is unfortunately lost? What's the financial kind of requirement at that point, right? And so I just asking those questions. What happens if? What expenses can I expect that might pop up later? And then the third tip I was going to provide kind of rolls into this, is check with your insurance and find out what is covered and not covered.
Mm. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay.
So talking about insurance, this is really important because people, especially in the United States, health insurance is not an ideal system. It's not perfect by any means. And so people think, oh, well, I have health insurance, so it'll be fine. But they don't dig deeper and find out, what is this really and truly going to cost me? What's my copay for every single OB visit? If you end up with a high risk pregnancy, you could be seeing the OB weekly towards the end of your pregnancy. So what's the copay for every single one of those? What's your co-insurance for the hospital stay? So what co-insurance is you'll have a deductible that you have to meet. So know what that is. That's usually a couple $1,000s depending on your plan. So that means for every expense up to that point, you're responsible. So you have to pay all of it until you hit that deductible. And then after that, your co-insurance is the percent you have to pay on top of that. So let's say you meet your $2,000 deductible. Everything above that, you're paying 20%. 10%. It depends on your policy. Every policy is different. So it's really important to know not only what am I going to be responsible for, but what is and isn't covered. And then how much is that, what's that going to look like? It's 20%, but is that a $10,000 hospital stay or a $100,000 hospital stay, right? So just kind of knowing in advance what's covered. The other thing that's really important about knowing what's covered is a lot of health insurances do not cover things like doulas and birthing centers and midwives and home births, right? So if this is something that you want for your birth, if that's what you want for your birth experience, then you may need to consider that you may have to pay for that out of pocket, or again, go into your open enrollment period and adjust your healthcare coverage to make sure that those kinds of things are covered. Because like for us, for example, I'm a military spouse, so I'm on TRICARE, which means I'm on TRICARE Prime. I pay nothing out of pocket, zero. But also, I absolutely have to go to this doctor at this hospital, and I have to deliver in this unit, right? I don't really have choice. I don't mind not having choice. I like not paying anything out of pocket. But if you want that choice, you'll need to know kind of what that's going to look like for you. But on that, because of that, there is a way to have home births, but it's complicated and it's hard to do. It's hard to go through that process to get approval. But my doula, I paid out of pocket for my doula because it's not covered by health insurance. So knowing what is and isn't covered is really important, because that way, again, you never want to be surprised by anything. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
So that kind of leads into what I was going to say is really think about what you want your birthing and delivery experience to look like and what you want life to look like afterwards, because it's going to affect financially, it will affect you. So again, things like if you want to give birth at a birthing center or with a doula or with a home birth, those things might be things that you have to pay for out of pocket. So if that's part of your desire, that's beautiful and wonderful. Just make sure you plan for it. Don't let yourself be surprised. But the other thing is, are you planning to breastfeed or formula feed? Are you planning to cloth diaper or disposable diaper? Now, we all know best laid plans, right? We had every intention of breastfeeding, and we're not able to be successful in that. And so we had to shift to formula. And so that added a pretty significant expense to our budget with our newborn. So dreaming about those things, thinking about what you want it to look like, what kind of experience you want to have, and how you want to manage those things ahead of time will really help you to plan ahead and kind of set yourself up for success.
Okay. I love that. Yeah. And I agree with you. I went through that too, where like I was planning to breastfeed, wasn't successful, and so had to move to formula. And that added a whole expense that I was not expecting. So
she's about to be a year old. We're about to come off formula, and I'm so excited.
Yeah. Okay. So what other tips do you have for us around family planning for
So the last thing and the biggest thing I want to stress for anybody who's thinking about having a baby, whether that's through traditional or surrogate or IVF, whatever it is, do not feel like you have to be in a financially perfect situation in order to have a child. You'll never be in a perfect situation. Something will always come up. And so rather than trying to create, financial perfection, just create a plan. right? Just have a plan, know how you're going to manage it, and then you'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine. Don't feel like you have to create this perfect situation. Please just, if you feel like you're ready, look at these things, make a plan, know that you're covered, and then just go for it. Like, go for it. A child will always be a blessing. There's a difference between, I say don't buy a house if you're in debt, because then your house becomes a curse, right? That's not the truth of the child, right? If you still have debt, it's okay to go ahead and have a child, because your child will always be a blessing. But what you do have to do is have a plan. Have a plan, know what it's going to look like, know what to expect, and kind of plan ahead for that.
Okay, awesome. And then are there any like myths or common tips that are given that you feel like are counterproductive for people that are family planning? Anything you want to address there?
Yeah, the big one, like I said, is people feel like they have to get out of debt before they can have a baby, and I just don't agree with that. I don't. We did it personally, but there were a lot of other things in our life that lined up as far as that timeline. I just don't agree with that. I think it's okay as long as you have a financial plan and you'll be able to take care of your child. I don't think you need to be debt free before you can have a baby. I do think the more you can avoid debt, the better, but I personally don't think that that's necessary. And then I think this is kind of common in everything, but there are common beliefs and myths that you can't do XYZ without taking out a loan. You can't do IVF without taking out a loan. You can't adopt without a loan. And that's just not true. It's not true. There are agencies that are lower price, but still high quality. There's time you can save up for things, right? And so I don't want anybody to fall into either extreme of there's no way I can make this happen without debt, or I must be debt free before I can do this. There is a middle ground where yes, you can pay cash for this, but also you don't have to worry about completely getting out of debt first. It's just about having a plan and kind of knowing where you're headed. That's really important.
Okay, awesome. And then any final words that you want to leave everybody with?
So the last thing I guess what I want to say is like, you aren't alone. So I know we're talking a lot about like before you conceive, before pregnancy. And I know that sometimes pregnancies are surprises. And so even if you haven't done these things, that's okay. Like, you're still going to be okay. You're not alone. You have people to support you through it. And that is kind of the benefit of a financial coach, is somebody can actually dig into your situation, look at exactly what you've got going on, and see the forest for the trees, so to speak. And I can see big picture and kind of help you pick out what are the actionable steps you can take. So just know if you weren't able to do these things and you already find yourself pregnant, it's okay. You're still going to be okay. You can still start looking into some things. You can still make some shifts and make some plans, and it's going to be wonderful.
Okay. So, Nicole, tell everybody where they can find you online, and tell everybody how they can access your other tips for how to financially plan when you are pregnant and how to financially plan if the baby is already here.
Babies. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple different things. One thing I want to say is I do have a community group on Facebook where I provide education and encouragement around finances. And like I said, it's called Your Money Journey. So if you actually just type in Your Money Journey with Nicole Weaver, and that's Nichole Weaver, Weaver. Your Money Journey with Nicole Weaver, that's my community group. You can always contact me there, ask questions, get encouragement, learn some things. So that's one. The other one is I have a website. It is super simple, www.nicoleweaver.com. Again, NiCholeWeaver. And on that website, you can schedule for a free consultation if you just need to kind of chat and ask a question. But there's also a contact form at the bottom that you can just fill out. And again, ask a question or share something. And so if you go to my website, www.nicoleweaver.com, and fill out that contact form and say that you caught this live and you want more information about before, during, after pregnancy, I will send you the infographics that I've got for these tips. Before, during, and after. We only really talked about before today, but I do have tips for during and after. And so if you want those infographics, jump over to my website, fill out the contact form, and just say that you caught this live and want more information about pregnancy and finances.
Okay, awesome. And then Nicole, also share with everybody, like, are you taking financial coaching clients through the rest of the year, and how people can get in touch with you if they do want to work with you as a financial coach?
Perfect. So yes, absolutely. I'm always taking on clients. I right now I am doing a big sale on packages, which packages are wonderful because they lock in your price per session. So if you buy 3 sessions, even if my prices go up, that's the price you pay for those sessions. And so those are on sale right now. A 3-session package is $240 and a 6-session package is $460. And so those prices are good through the end of July. So on August 1st, not only did the sale prices go away, but all of my prices are going up. And then a single session right now is $97. So if you want to grab a session or grab some packages, again, just jump to my website, shoot me an email, let me know what you want more information, or you can schedule a free consult if you want, but it's not necessary. You can always just shoot me an email. So always taking on clients. And there's really the timeline for those sessions. So if you do a 3-session package, you've got 6 months to use them. So you can kind of spread them out. A 6-session package, you have 12 months to use them. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to like use them all right away. You can go ahead and lock in those prices, and then you have a full year to use the 6 sessions if you do that. So always taking on clients. My schedule's pretty flexible, so I can usually find some pretty good time. If you are married and you are a couple and you share finances and it's one household, it's all the same price. So there's no extra add-ons if your, spouse wants to come with you to the session.
Okay, awesome. Well, Nicole, I want to thank you so much for making time to do the live, sharing your expertise with us, your best tips. I want to encourage everybody to hit up Nicole on her website, to follow her on all of her social media platforms, including Instagram, and then to just ask her any questions that you have about finances. She's really, really easy to talk about, about money. I've been talking to her about money, and we also schedule a group session that I'm really excited for as well. So no better time like the present. Don't feel overwhelmed. Don't feel like you're starting too late. Just go ahead and start where you are with what you have. Get the people in your life that can be the support system. That way, this time next year, you'll be in a totally different situation. So get Nicole on your team as the cheerleader and the expert advisor. And then if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and send a private message. That's always available to you. Email her, whatever you can. All right. So that will be it for us. We wanted to keep it to a really tight time frame because we so respect your time. We appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much for checking out this live and hanging out with us through the technical difficulties. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye, guys.